So, since you're there, that was not a word in our vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
We decided early on that divorce was not an option, correct?
Murder maybe, but not divorce.
Oh my gosh.
That was the best answer for that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Restoration Podcast, conversations of hope and healing. Join us as we talk about subjects dealing with ministry, faith, everyday life, and other hot topics. Our prayer is that these conversations bring encouragement to your life.
But Cindy and Pastor Bill, thanks for giving us your time and stopping by. I know y'all are both busy people. Today, actually, Pastor Bill was not in the office. It's at the time of this recording, it's a Thursday. You were doing what today? Something you usually don't do.
I was writing a sermon for Sunday.
You're on. Pastor Johnny's out this coming Sunday at the time of this recording.
Yes.
So did it get written?
Half.
Half of it? Okay.
Outlines in and done.
It's
but
better than
the
nothing,
sermon's
right?
about half done, yeah.
Good. Looking forward to that. And
Yeah, so am
Cindy
I.
came straight from work.
I did.
And so thanks for doing that. So I kind of wanted to start with that first. So most of our Restoration people know who y'all are, but not everyone who listens and watches are Restoration Church people. So if you can just tell us like who you are, what you do, all that fun stuff. So we'll start with Pastor Bill.
I'm Bill.
Keep talking.
I'm Bill. I'm currently the executive pastor here at Restoration Church. I oversee business administration and finance, and any other place that I need to step in and fill, whether it be on the music team, the tech team, preaching in the pulpit, wherever. In fact, we joke that my name is Phil with an F.
With an F.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's about right.
yeah, I started here as a volunteer in under Morningside Assembly, and got involved with the worship team and small groups, and we both did. And then they decided to hire me to be their music pastor, and served all the way as a music pastor until 2017.
17.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Pastor Ben came, and then Ben felt a call to senior pastoring and planning a church, and then you came.
Here I am.
Here you are.
2 worship pastors later.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then who are you?
Yeah, so I'm Cindy, Bill's wife, and just outside of the church, I teach elementary school. I'm a Title I reading teacher. I've been doing that since 2002, I think. And prior to that, I taught 3rd grade for 15 years. So,
Yeah.
yeah, love it.
And how long have y'all been a part of this church?
Since 97,
97.
96.
90.
Michaela was like 11 months old. That's how I...
Okay,
So
yeah.
it's 96.
The older you get, the more you figure out years by
Everything's-
how
yeah,
old
right,
everybody
yeah.
was at
Yeah.
that
You
time.
guys have been at this church as long as I've been alive.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Okay, that's good to know.
Wonderful.
Thought you'd want to know that.
So is that a long time? Yes. Yes, it is.
27 years.
Put that down.
And counting, right?
God,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so Pastor Bill kind of touched on it. You were the music pastor for many years, and that's something that y'all did together, right? We've talked about ministry on this podcast before, and my parents were on. They're children's pastors for many years, and one thing they mentioned was if your spouse is in ministry, you are also in ministry. Would you
Yeah.
say that's correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you were kind of not just support, but like you helped Bill with other things too, correct? So you did like video announcements and stuff like that.
Yeah, video announcements. I worked in the booth.
Yep.
Did what I could there, and
Helped a lot when we did productions.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
corralled
So she really ran the show then, right?
pretty much. Yeah.
producer extraordinaire.
Producer, yeah.
Producer extraordinaire.
No, it's
Yeah.
important. Yeah. Back when y'all used to do those productions. We don't
Yeah.
really do those anymore.
No, it's
Do you miss it?
no.
Do you miss it?
It was a lot. It was hard on our family, but
So-
they were amazing.
I'd-
to
Oh,
go
yes.
back
I was
and
going to
watch
say, the
them.
end results are always, they're
They
never
were-
disappointing.
They
Yeah.
were amazing. We did off the wall stuff, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
did traditional stuff, and I think the end result was great, but getting there was terrible. I remember every Friday before opening night, I was belly down in the front of the sanctuary praying to God that nobody would mess up,
Right.
and when we got done, it was just like a load lifted off. But I think one of the coolest things that we experienced was the connections in that.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
The promise that we did. We had a cast and crew and everybody involved of 86 people,
I can't believe that.
which was I couldn't believe it now looking back on it.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun in those days, and it was a lot of work. And it tears up the building and it tears up people
Mhm.
and their schedules and everything like that. But like you said, the end result was
Yeah, the end result's usually great, but like Cindy said, it puts a
yeah,
it wears you down.
it does.
You know, puts a toll on your family. Not that you meant for that to happen. It just happens.
Yeah.
'Cause it takes a lot of
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
right? And when y'all did those, Nate and Michaela were like children, right? They're young,
Yeah.
very young.
Yeah.
So
And as they got older, they participated.
yeah, I was gonna
too,
say
but
that too.
Still, it's like they're here
they're still
a
kids.
lot.
Yeah, and they're here a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They probably enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Because my parents, very similarly, they did a lot of kids programs, and my dad was our choir director, so I was at church a lot too. But I've always loved music, and so I was just there, and
Yeah.
and so so today you're now our executive pastor,
Mhm.
so you're the money guy. I hate labeling you that way, but that's basically
Yeah, you could say it. I mean, oversee the finances.
that's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
financial
I'm not
guy.
the
yeah.
money guy. I just keep people from going off the edge of the cliff.
There
and
we go.
that's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very very important job.
Yeah, and we want to be good stewards of
That's exactly right.
of God's money, and so
Mhm.
that's kind of my job, and look after that. And from my standpoint in this position, I think I'm very blessed to have had the experience I did growing up
Sure.
through the ranks of the church and doing
Mhm.
the different things
Yep.
to understand the different departments and things
Mhm.
like that. So
Yeah. So you're the executive pastor, but you mentioned it too earlier that you're also still involved in worship because you're now one of our main drummers.
yes, yep,
How's that been?
that's been awesome. That was my the instrument I wanted to play all my life. Had to take piano first in order to do that, to learn rhythm
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. So,
I
but
think it's cool that as worship pastor for however long you did that, a long time, everyone knew you as the keys player, but now in a different season, it's a different instrument.
Yeah.
Did you miss seeing him play drums too, or?
So I fell in love with the guy that played the drums.
Oh, there we
right?
go.
So yeah,
You're welcome,
I love
Bill.
it that
You're welcome. Yeah, that's awesome. But he's Pastor Bill still plays, and then Cindy, you're also still involved. Every so often, you do what around here on Sundays?
if you
Wednesdays?
ask me to help, I help
yeah,
for you and for the nursery.
yeah,
and
those two areas.
I
yeah,
try to
that's what I was
help
getting
Angie out a lot in women's ministries.
Yep.
Just help her organize her thoughts and see
Yep.
her visions come to fruition, and
Yep.
maybe offer an idea here or there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. But what I'm trying to get at is this couple is still very much involved. It's not like once you moved on, that was it. And so I appreciate that about y'all. But the reason I asked y'all to come on was because at the time of this, it is February, so like the month of relationships, love, or whatever. And so our podcast team was having a meeting, and we were like, we want to do like relationship themed stuff. And I was like, it'd be really cool if we could talk to a couple that's been married, that's had a long, successful, godly marriage. We're like, who could we ask? And so I buzzed Bill. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And all I said, you answered, said yes. I said, how long have you been married? And then you answered, and I said, great. And I just hung up.
yeah,
And then he popped in later. He's like, what was that about? And so that's what this is about. And so I wanted to dive into that topic of marriage because y'all have been married for how long now?
39 years and 9 months, probably.
something like that. Yeah,
So 40 is this year,
Yes.
yeah, May.
25.
Yep.
That's amazing. Not a lot of people can say they've been married that long. So that's in today, And so that's why I wanted to kind of dive into that. So I don't mean to go all the way back, and we won't be here for 3 hours unless you want to. That's fine. But I actually don't know y'all's story. I don't know where y'all met and when or what. Can you remember that far back?
Like it was yesterday.
Yes, yes.
Thinking black and white memories, like what, like where did y'all meet? I don't know this story, so I'm interested myself.
I was involved. My dad was a Methodist pastor at the time,
Mhm.
and so I was involved with the state Methodist youth organization.
Mm-hmm.
And my best friend was a Methodist youth person.
And so her best friend introduced us
Oh, okay.
at a youth gathering, state youth gathering.
Mm-hmm.
They call them the Bishop's Inn gathering because it was the state of Iowa bishop. It'd be like the Iowa Ministry Network.
Sure. Yeah, the Methodist
superintendent.
version.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we met there and, kind of introduced us and everything. But we actually didn't get together for a date until, let's say that was in the fall, right?
Yeah, it would have been Twerp in April.
Yeah, that
my
was our
18th
first
birthday.
date was Twerp in April, and she asked me out.
She asked you.
She asked me out because it
Well,
was
no,
Sadie.
Jackie asked you for me.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. Sadie Hawkins.
Sadie
did.
Hawkins. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was the first date.
Yeah. Yep.
So Cindy, did you know right away at that Sadie Hawkins dance this is the one, or?
Probably. Yeah. I think I told my dad I'm back in the game.
Oh my gosh.
Is that what you said?
I'm not on the sidelines anymore.
Oh, that's funny.
That's awesome. And then how long did y'all date before you got married?
3 years. I had a year and a
that's
half dating, and then a year and a half engagement.
Engaged. Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yep.
And then
We were pretty young. We were 21 years
that was my
old.
next question. Y'all got married
Yeah.
pretty young,
Yeah,
right?
21.
There's kind of a trend today where people are waiting longer to get married, and I mean, it doesn't matter. Every story, every couple is different. But I've seen it both ways. I've seen it where people get married like y'all young and it works out. But I've also seen the other side where people get married at 21 or 22 and this is sad. But we have quite a few friends from Evangel that we went to school with. They got married like right away that they've already divorced or have separated, and so long-lasting marriages are not really a common thing anymore.
Yeah.
And so
Even
but-
in the Christian world, it's 50-50.
actually, I was gonna say
Yeah.
that too. In the
Yeah.
Christian world too, you'd think, oh, Christians they'll last a long time, but a lot of them don't in today. And so y'all are a rarity, a good rarity, and that's a good thing. But
Can I interject for a
yeah,
second?
do it.
I was actually studying this out. I was studying divorces out and the numbers of divorce. And actually, I was researching. There's a lady who does a deep, deep dive into the statistics behind divorces. And the statistic says, people usually say the statistic says that 50% of marriages end in divorce. But that's actually not true. She's researched it and deep dived into it, and it's actually 26 to 27% of marriages end in divorce. And so she was saying that a lot of people said that because back in the 70s, the trend was that a lot of people were getting divorced. And they said if this keeps going at this trend, someday it'll be a 50-50%. So it's actually not a 50-50% chance. So I thought I would just interject that.
Oh, thanks for that nugget.
Yeah.
Why were you looking into divorce? I just want to ask.
I was actually driving home, and it was a segment on K-Love.
Oh,
and
okay.
The lady was talking about it, and so I was like, I wanted to research and do my own research to make sure that what she was saying was true.
Uh-huh.
And it was.
Okay. Well, thanks for that nugget.
So, since you're there, that was not a word in our vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
We decided early on that divorce was not an option.
Mhm.
Correct?
Murder maybe, but not
Oh my
divorce.
gosh.
That was the best answer for that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
That's good.
gosh.
That was something that y'all both said to each.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
We had to come to that agreement because,
Yeah.
it's not always easy
No.
at the beginning.
No.
You're young and our frontal lobes still probably weren't even closed
Right.
yet. And,
Y'all were 21. So.
and you're selfish and,
Mhm.
everybody wants their own way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we just had to come to that agreement where, we're going to knock down, drag out sometimes, but divorce is never an option.
That's good, and that's something you had to decide early on. I think.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that makes a big difference. I said the same thing. I'm old fashioned, and so before I proposed to Tori, I actually met with her dad one on one. Actually, I shared this on a Sunday when I preached once, but I was trying to connect with him, but he kept putting it off, and I understand now. I do. Back then, I was like, "What the heck," And so eventually, when we met, I told him I had this whole thing planned out or whatever, and then I was like, "Divorce is not." And I said the same thing. I said, it's not an option for me, at least for me and my marriage. I'm going to do everything in my power to be there, support her, and all that. But what I want to say about that is it's a two-way thing. It's not just one. It's not like the
Right.
guy can say, it's not, it takes cohesion. Would you
Yeah.
say that's true?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Divorce is so messy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anybody wins.
Right.
In that.
Right. Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
it really is tough.
No matter the situation.
Well, yeah, unless there's abuse going on
Oh,
or
of
something
course.
like
Sure.
that.
But that's
yeah,
messy still.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
still messy.
But so what I hope the takeaway from this conversation is I hope people hear stories about your marriage and how y'all overcame things and how y'all got to 39 years of marriage. And my hope is that people are encouraged that if they're married or engaged or going to be married or maybe they're going through a rough patch, that's kind of what I want this to be like. So can we dive in a little bit into your marriage? How on earth have you lasted for 39 years? Like, what is the secret? Like, I know there's no secret, but like, what has kind of helped y'all stay strong?
I don't know if this actually answers that question.
Oh,
but
no, say
going
whatever.
Back just
Yeah.
a little bit. The other thing is we surrounded ourselves with people that also had godly marriages.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And divorce probably wasn't an option for them either.
Yeah.
So we had good role models along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Both of us come from, I think my personal testimony feels kind of boring
Mm-hmm.
because I come from a stable family. I come from I grew up in a stable family. You did too. My brothers and sisters, our brothers are all still married to their first
That's
wives.
good.
And, it's just almost like it's something that's not even on the radar. We don't even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you can go back to that question.
Oh no, it's okay. Yeah. So like, what has helped you keep that marriage so strong? Like any nuggets or tips you can throw at people? What has kind of helped y'all last for 39 years?
Well, we'll probably both tell you that the first 5 years were the hardest
mm-hmm.
because and you've got to get through the first 5
Mm-hmm.
as a milestone because if you bail out at 2, you really didn't give it
You didn't give it a whole go.
no. And once you hit the 5 years, then you got to really analyze it and look at it and say, yeah, I think we can make this work.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that you have to give up in marriage for your spouse. And I know people are probably saying, give up. I'm not giving up anything. Well, you have to if you love your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we talked about, too, that kept us together is we do everything together,
Mm-hmm.
all right, as much as we can. We decided that when we got married, it was husband and wife, and not the clique of girls that she would hang out with, or the guys I would go
Mm-hmm.
hunting with, or things like that, or do other things like that. You have to put that old life aside and focus on each other in the life that you
Mm-hmm.
you do together. One of the things that's our favorite saying in our marriage, and I'm going to probably steal your thunder if that's okay, was that on the day we were married, I love you became I love us.
That's good.
And so we have focused on what us looks like, and to learn to love what us looks like
Mm-hmm.
as in this life, instead of love and my side or her side. It's our life together.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a huge thing for us. I
Yeah, and
think.
that's not to say he doesn't go do things with guys and I
course
don't
not,
do
yeah.
things with girls, but it's not something either of us really long to do.
It looks different
It's
now.
not,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
something that we go out seeking
Mm-hmm.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another reason I wanted you guys to talk on this topic and why y'all know so much about it is because when y'all were pastors together, y'all did a lot of premarital counseling, correct? And you still do it, right?
Still do it. Yeah.
And you take couples through, we use something called SYMBIS, which stands for
Save your
Saving
marriage before
before it starts.
Yep. Save
right?
your marriage before it starts.
And so y'all have walked through all this with young couples who are about to get
Yes.
married.
Yes.
And y'all do it together, correct?
Correct.
Yes, we do.
Yep.
Have you found that that's beneficial to have both?
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
because I can talk to the female side
Yes.
and he can talk to the male side. So
Yeah.
it really, really
And so
it adds a lot.
I didn't prompt you for this, but when you do the SYMBIS thing, there's like a test, and then you take it first. Can you remember what those results were? They like, were they like pretty accurate or?
Well, and we took it when we had 32 years of marriage under our belt.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because
So
we
you
had,
knew all the right answers.
I had to
No.
get
You know what
certified.
to choose. No.
no, I had to get certified to do it.
Sure,
you know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you did too.
Yeah.
So what we found was when we did that and came back and looked at our results, it gave us still talking points in our marriage that we hadn't covered.
32 years in.
Yeah. And so it really was kind of fun and a little bit unnerving because we weren't sure what was going to happen. But it did. It opened up the door on some other things that we hadn't gotten to, covered, talked about, worked through in our marriage. Forgotten about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But 32 years didn't. So that just shows that marriage is just an ongoing thing.
Yes.
It's not like, oh,
Yes.
they've passed the 30-year mark, all the troubles are behind them. Like
Right.
they don't have any other, I had asked
Yeah.
Bill earlier too. I said, I had put in here on questions was to cover difficult seasons, and he mentioned the first 5 years was very difficult. It kind of makes me think of, and Cindy can relate to this, you know what they say about the first year of teaching, there's nothing quite like it, that the first year is always the toughest year, and then it just gets better after that. You can ask any teacher, a veteran teacher like yourself, that first year is always so difficult because everything's so new. And I've only been married for, what year is this, 2025? Let's see, let me do some math here. 8 years this year, I think. Does that sound right? Anyway, but I've seen that too, that the first 5 years or whatever, 3 to 5 years, because we're still, we knew each other, but we had never lived together. And we Pastor Johnny has a saying where he says, when you marry someone, you're also marrying the family, and both ends. And so that's a new thing. And so I totally agree that the first few years is always the most difficult. And then once children enter the picture, that changes things as well. Would you say that too?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%.
For both, right? It does get
Right.
difficult, but then,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
What was that season like when kids entered the picture? Can you remember?
We don't remember our 30s.
That is not a lie.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
No,
the
that's
30s are,
it was a
and I
blur.
tell this
Well,
to
that's good to
Michaela
know,
all
I
the
think.
time. When you
That's
have the kids,
Mm-hmm.
the days when you're at home with them, the days are long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you have to change activities every 2 minutes because
Oh,
that's
yeah.
their
Keep their attention.
span.
Yeah.
But the years go really fast.
Mm.
The days are long, but the years are fast.
Hmm. So it's all kind of blurred together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and you're focused on raising kids.
Yeah.
When we tell people your world will be upside down, they have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And both of our kids have discovered that.
Mm-hmm. Because they both have
They
kids
both have
now.
kids
Yeah.
now. And it's a shock.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say the first 90 days of bringing a child into your home is a milestone.
Mm-hmm.
That's the roughest because you're trying to, it's just like in marriage, you're trying to work things through, personalities, everything,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get the baby on a schedule, and it's like they suck the life out of you.
Yeah.
But then that's when you need each other still to,
Oh, yeah. That's good.
to look to
Mhm.
each other
Mm-hmm.
for strength and support. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So longevity in marriage and a long-lasting godly marriage, what are some things that you would want people to know now, whether that's advice or maybe something not to do, because that can be just as helpful.
yeah.
And I know a lot of people have, everyone who's married has someone else that's married in their life that has shared advice they probably hear all the time. But you guys, I'm being serious. I'm not saying this because the cameras are on or whatever. This couple right here, like, they're a great example of a long-lasting, godly marriage. And I want to say this too, again, not just because cameras are on. The way Bill talks about Cindy, even today, how many years have we been married now? 39, almost 40?
Almost 40.
I mean, it's almost as if y'all are still dating. Like, he's always
Yeah.
got you in mind, always thinking about you. For example, go ahead, what were you going to say?
I remember there was one day I was exhausted and I answered the phone and my wife had called me and I said, "Hey," and Bill goes, "That's how you answer the phone for your wife?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You answered it like that?" He's like, "You need to be saying, 'Hey, babe.'" He's like, "Keep that fire alive."
No, yeah, that's good. But yeah, seriously, like, y'all still have the flame's still burning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and so I want people I wanted people to see a good example of that, and y'all are totally that. And so that's why I wanted you guys to open this can of worms. And so what are some things you think young couples or people that are contemplating marriage need to know or need to get in their minds as soon as possible to have a long marriage, godly marriage?
Well, we touched a little bit on it, but we're each other's best friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Number one.
And cheerleader.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't always that way. I'm kind of critical. I
Most
don't
wives
mean-
are.
Yeah, I
Most
mean,
wives are.
yeah, but and he's very much a dreamer, and
Most husbands are.
and I remember a lot of times you would be having these ideas, and no lie, my first reaction would be, well, that's not going to work. That won't work.
Uh-huh.
And here's 7 reasons why.
Yep.
And I had to step back and be more retrospective and just think about, hey, wait a minute. If we were both like me, we wouldn't get
Oh, yeah.
anywhere.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
and I would never take a risk,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, you asked about a funny story one time.
Yeah, do it.
So we went to the Royal Gorge
Oh, yeah.
in Colorado,
Yeah.
and it's this huge suspension bridge, and then there's a cable car that you can take to get from one side to the other.
Mm-hmm.
A cable, it's probably like
Yep.
this big around.
They're kind of scary to ride.
And he's like, hey, let's do it. And we've got kids. Michaela's maybe 3, 4,
Uh-huh.
probably 4 years old.
I think it was 7 or 8. something
Yeah.
Like that.
And I'm like, yeah, no. I'm not going on that.
Uh-huh.
He goes, come on, it'll be fun. Let's go, let's go. No, I'm not going. And he said, I'm going, and I'm taking the children. And I'm
Okay.
like, oh, that means I have to go.
Because she says, all right, I'll go because I'm not gonna let you guys die, and I'm gonna have to live
Yeah.
here alone.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
That was the
Yeah.
only reason I went.
And obviously it was okay. You're
It
still
was
here.
okay, and
Yeah.
it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. there was another story that I wanted to make sure we brought up. So those who don't know, if you're a pastor in the Assemblies of God Fellowship, you have to go through a process in order to receive your ordination. And one thing you have to do is and Pastor Scott will have to do this eventually, you have to get interviewed by a
Panel.
By a panel, thank you, of other ministers who have gone through that process. And you do the interview with your spouse if you're married. And Bill told me this story. I'll let you share it. But when y'all did y'all's interview, what happened? There was a question that got asked.
Okay, they asked.
First of all, set the scene. It
Yeah,
was
set
a
the scene.
room full
Oh,
of
that's right.
men
Yes.
that were 70 years old and older.
Yeah.
I don't think there was anybody younger
Yeah,
than that.
in the old network office, and it was down in the basement.
In a
It was
basement,
musty and
dark.
Yeah, and so we're sitting across the table from them, and they've taken me through the grilling of questions that they had for me about my background, my calling, things like that, and then they looked at me and they said, "Now we want you to be quiet, and we want to talk to her."
Gulp.
And I immediately was like, what did I say to her on the way down to Des Moines that she's going to bring up? And Lord Jesus, help me. So he looks at Cindy and he poses a question and he says, describe your marriage. And you said,
Fun,
and exciting.
exciting.
Yeah, she said fun and exciting. And he stepped back and he goes, fun? And I said, well, isn't yours?
And the panel.
Yeah, it broke it up.
that's
It just
perfect.
And then they got all talking, and I never had to say another
we go.
word in the
no, it was
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was good.
So is that still true? Is the marriage still fun and exciting?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
making sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing, reverting back to something else said, how you said that it's not like when you get married and you don't get to do things you want to do. Would you also say that you also learn to appreciate your spouse's hobbies as well? So, like, for example, just for y'all, I know y'all go fishing together sometimes. That's something kind of more of what you do, not necessarily you, correct?
Right.
But you enjoy seeing him in his element, right?
Mhm.
And then do you do things that she enjoys or not really?
Yeah.
Has that kind of bled in as well, or
Yeah.
What'd I do?
what's an example?
Well, one of the hobbies you had one time was you used to do stamps and cards and things like that, and I would come watch you do them because it was
Exciting.
it was fun and exciting. And I like to see her in her element too.
Yeah.
I'll go with her if she has to go to school sometimes and get something in her classroom or
Mm-hmm.
things like that. But one of the things that I've noticed about her over the years is if we have a project that needs to be done in the house and it's not getting done fast enough, she'll drag out the ladder and the paint and stuff like that, and then so we were painting the outside of the house at the time, and she climbs up on the ladder and it's painting the trim. We have a split foyer, and so she comes down and I was doing something else and she says, I can't do this. You got to do this. So I end up painting,
Mm-hmm.
and she goes and does something else.
Yeah, and he was busy. He really was doing something worthwhile, and I thought, well, I'll just get this done. And I wasn't tall enough. That was the problem, and the ladder was up all the way, and I'm not
At that
going to
point.
stand,
Yep.
On the top
You weren't
rung of the
secure. That's
ladder.
the thing. And
Yeah.
I wasn't helping you feel secure.
Yeah, at that point, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
And that's just that word secure.
Sure, yeah.
Something about in marriage, you
That's a
have to
great one.
make your spouse feel secure.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't feel secure in the marriage, safe, secure with finances, with
They'll
who
look
you
for
are,
security
with-
somewhere
yeah.
else,
Yeah.
Yep.
and that's what can start all those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I see you have stuff on your phone. I want to make sure you cover
Oh, that's
anything you've
okay.
got. Okay, sweet. Because I just thought of another story.
Okay.
So I don't remember the exact details. Maybe you can clarify this. But something was going on. You were doing something to the deck of your house. Do you know where I'm going with this? I'll just let you take over because to this day, I have a mental picture in my head of you doing the. So what happened? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. 100%.
Does she know what I'm talking about?
100%. So this is back to the hobbies.
Yeah.
I enjoy fishing. And all my friends had boats,
Uh-huh.
but me.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And one of our friends had a 14-foot John boat that he wanted to sell. And I was excited, I thought, I'd love to get a boat. It was affordable. And wasn't it? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, very affordable. And I was I went over and looked at it one day, and she was out of town with ladies in Omaha shopping, and she sends me this picture of a purse that I don't remember what it was, Coach purse or something, and I thought, well, that's pretty expensive. And she says, look what I found. I said, that's great. And I said, look what I found. And I sent her a picture of the boat. And she came home, and she's like, tell me you didn't buy a boat. I said, no, I didn't buy a boat. I just went and looked at it. I said, that's a sweet boat. So, we had a few more discussions about it. It really wasn't something we budgeted for or something that it just popped up, and I could figure out how to make it work. And so we kind of left it at that. The next day was Sunday. We came to church and went out to lunch with Pastor Johnny and Angie. And your mother-in-law says, so, Bill, you going to buy Shane's boat? And I'm like, you have no idea what can of worms that she'd opened, because we discussed this. And I said, I don't know. It's a good price. She said, yeah, it's a good price. I said, and I, fish are out in deeper water, when you can't catch in the bank and stuff. So I've always enjoyed fishing. Even when I was a kid, my dad and I used to go a lot. And she looked at me, Cindy looked at me in that lunch, we were at Hoo-Hot, I believe, or something like that.
Hoo-Hot or Outback?
Yeah, one of the two places.
Yeah.
And she says, you're not getting a new boat until I get a deck. Because our deck was in shambles.
Sure.
Yeah. And it's one of those neglected upkeep things, delayed maintenance things.
Yep.
And it was in shambles. And so she says, I'm going to go home and mow the lawn. This was Cindy talking to me. And she says, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to go home and cut the deck off the side of the house. So I did. And so best laid plans, I had an idea that I would cut the legs off at about.
We have a small hot tub under the deck, so
Yes.
we wanted to protect that.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
So I'd cut the legs up about 14 inches and push the deck out and let it drop, so it's still to protect it. It's below where the new deck would be, and I could stand on it and build the new deck.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. I was so confident in my abilities that I didn't clear off anything on the deck. Furniture, grill, everything, okay? And so when I pushed it over, away from the house, one of the legs caught and started to buckle, and the whole deck began to list away from the house, okay? And the grill decided that it was leaning more towards the house, so it went in against the house and was pushing the deck out, okay? I grabbed the deck, I grabbed the corner of the house,
Yes.
and I was hanging on for dear life. And Cindy comes around the corner, and she says, because she hadn't heard anything happening, and so I think she was kind of concerned something that I was okay or whatever. Come around the house, and she sees what's going on. She says, oh my gosh, what do I need to do? I said, get that 4x4 and prop up the corner of the house. And at that point, I'm feeling my shoulder separate from trying to hang on to this deck. And then I couldn't let go because she's down there trying to prop it up. And so, long story short, we got it all propped up. We got everything, where it needed to be. We cleaned up the yard, and it's dark. And there wasn't a word spoken all afternoon.
Of course not.
Okay. And the last words spoken at night as we were walking into the house, she says, you must want a boat pretty bad, Bill.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up getting the
And
boat.
then you do get the boat. Yeah,
Yeah,
you eventually did get the boat.
But I built her an amazing deck.
There you go. So you both,
Amazing.
There,
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And you do things in your marriage like that.
Oh yeah. I bet there's tons of stories of
Oh, yeah.
things you did. Is it mostly him that does the not wise things, or like,
The unwise.
you know what I mean?
I don't know. I could probably.
She's done wise things too. I'm
Okay,
sure,
yeah.
but-
But you learn to laugh about those things in the
Isn't that the
future,
truth?
not
Yeah.
in the moment.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Not in the moment.
Time needs to pass a little bit for some of that.
Another story that has nothing to do with y'all's marriage, deals with my marriage. Cindy knows what this is Tori and I were on our way to dinner to Johnny and Angie's house. And actually, to give you some context, we had just had a really bad argument. And so we were like, not in a good mood. And I had brought this glass container.
I know the story.
This glass container of queso, because we were having like tostadas or something. And so we get there, and Tori was not getting out of the car, and Cindy was outside the house.
She was in the car?
She was in the car.
I didn't even know that.
And so we're mad, okay? So we're just not. And so I'm like, whatever. So I get out of the car. I don't remember what. I think I was trying to balance it on something. But Cindy was outside the house, and she saw me get out of my car. And can you describe what you saw? What did you see, or did you hear it?
I heard
Okay.
that.
So I get out of the car trying to balance this queso, and then it just slid, and it fell in the driveway and just shattered.
Yeah, I did see it happen.
And it just absolutely
We're like,
splattered everywhere. And so I was
queso.
like, and so I poked my head in the car, and I was like, thanks for your help. Just drop the queso, because I was so mad. And so then we had to go get some more, and then laughed eventually, but in the moment it wasn't.
Sure.
But then we had another event at Matt and Tracy Pawlowski's house, and I was we were taking leftover apple crisp home, and I was trying to. It's hard to describe. I was parked in front of y'all are laughing already. I love it.
I saw this too.
Yeah,
So-
this was amazing.
so I was parked right in front of their garage, but there was another car behind me, and I was like, they don't need to move. I can just maneuver the car out. I can do this. And y'all were there, and y'all like, yeah, cheer me on. You can do it. And so what I failed to remember and realize was that we placed our food we were taking home on the driveway close to the car. And so I'm turning the wheel, backing out, and I'm doing it. And I see y'all's reaction. Y'all's reactions went from, yeah, he's got it, to Bill holding his and laughing like, and I'm like, what? And I get out, and I ran over our leftover apple crisp, and it exploded,
Yep.
splattered
All
all
over
over
the
the
driveway.
driveway. And I came out, and I was like, Cindy, it's like, again, causing me to whatever. But anyway, little things like that, to me personally, I think those goof ups and goofy things that happen, I think they're in the moment. They can, yes, go ahead, say it.
I always say to Kendra, it's the little things in life that really make me mad. And then it's funny to see that she does something little and it makes her mad. And then we sit there and we, instead of being mad about it, we both
You laugh about it, right? That happens a lot. And again, I've only been married for 7 years, but sometimes we get upset at things, but then or do something stupid, and we end up laughing about it.
You really do have to look at yourself, and you have
Yes.
to say, I'm not all that, and you have to. We're arguing about something that's
Something
not going to matter
so
tomorrow.
stupid, right?
And
Yes, 9 times out of 10,
yeah,
it's something so dumb. I won't say it, but just the other night, what are you gonna say?
She said it's not going to matter tomorrow. Most of the time, it doesn't even matter 5 minutes.
No, it doesn't.
Because you realize
just have
I
to-
walk away and I'm like, I was an idiot.
I
I
need
need
to
to go apologize.
I feel better about myself. I'm sleeping on the couch tonight. But 9 times out of 10, when we get into these disagreements, it's something so stupid, and the next day we're just like, why did we even, waste time on that?
Yeah.
But
isn't the silent treatment so awkward?
it's awful.
Isn't it
it's-
just the worst?
It is awkward.
Yeah, it is.
It's very awkward and not Christ-like. I'm just gonna be honest.
No, that's
Yeah.
and that's a great point.
Uh-huh.
And you said something. You used the word "mad" earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and you're gonna get mad in
Oh,
your marriage.
yes.
The thing is, don't do something stupid, not funny stupid, but don't do something dumb in your anger.
Oh yes.
And I would say that she said the silent treatment thing. It's something we've tried to do too. If something's an argument or a discussion or whatever you want to use, we don't let the sun go down or we don't go to bed without resolving that.
We're the same way.
Yeah.
We're the same way because we try to be in bed by 10 or 11 or whatever. But if some disagreement happens and we're just both so fired up, so to speak, emotionally, I don't go to bed because I don't like going to bed angry. I
Yeah.
believe that's biblical as well.
Yeah.
Is not don't let the sun go down on your anger.
Yep.
And so we try to resolve it, and sometimes it takes a long time.
Yeah. It takes two people, right? Some people are more contemplative, and when they're heated in the moment, they need to retreat
Yep,
and figure it out rather than talk it out first.
that's my wife.
And so, but what's important is to mention that to your spouse and say, I'm going in the other room
Yep.
because I need to think this through,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and I'll be out in a little bit.
Yep.
Because,
We're
rather than just walking
Yeah,
away and
just
them
going.
thinking,
without
well,
saying why,
yeah.
because then you're like, oh, you're storming off on me, and
Right.
that opens up
Right.
another thing. You just perfectly described Tori and me.
Mhm.
Tori is one that needs to think. She needs time to contemplate what's going on, how to explain how she's feeling, and I'm just like, I need to fix this now. Let me just say whatever,
Sure.
or in the moment, I swear, I feel like I'm a genius. Okay, I almost instigate and ask all these questions, and that's not the right time for that, you know. And that's the other thing I guess you learn through your marriage is what your spouse is like, how they react, and how you react, and how it can work together so that there's unity in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
We didn't know this from the
No,
beginning.
you don't.
We
No
spent
one.
the first 10 years
Learn how
doing
to
what
argue. No.
every other person does.
Yep.
Arguing about it. But you learn it along the way.
Mm-hmm. You learn how to communicate.
Yeah, you don't get it right in the beginning.
Oh gosh,
you just
no.
don't, and you have to have grace with each other, and
That's huge.
like she said, it's process it
Mm-hmm.
and then come back
Mm-hmm.
together. It's a dance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't figure it out right away.
No.
There's nothing you can do about it.
No.
Every couple you see, no matter how happy they are, they've had disagreements, arguments, they've been angry. Don't let anyone fool you.
Yeah.
Social media
Even on the
has-
way to church.
Yes, usually, especially on the way to church. But social media has done a very toxic thing where we only post the good, the
Mhm.
best. No one's going to post about an argument they just had with their
Yeah.
spouse, you know.
Yeah.
Or when they say, celebrating our first year, all the good things have happened. They're not going to list all the, negative things that have happened or things that they've learned about their spouse. And that's the thing about marriage is it's like you said, it went from I love you to I love us.
Mhm.
It's always the two, right? Always the two becoming one.
Yes.
Which is biblical again. Which speaking of biblical, how have you incorporated spirituality or the word in your marriage? And has that helped? Do you think that's kind of a reason why you've lasted this long in your marriage?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. 100%. If you don't have God as part of your marriage, it's not going to work
Mm-hmm.
well for you, for the both of you. One of the things that I learned to pray for my wife,
Mm-hmm.
but not only just, hey, I'll pray for you, but to physically take her hand and pray over her.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't do it all the time,
Mhm.
but there are times when I can tell she needs it.
Mm-hmm.
There are times when I need it, and we'll just do it. But we try and pray every morning before we
Right.
go off to work
Mhm.
together. And we walk through the Lord's Prayer. Not just rote, but you get into give us this day our daily bread. And Lord, we pray for wisdom today. We pray for finances today. We pray for your favor, God, on our marriage and on each other and the people we meet. And walk through it and list out things as you go through that
Right.
prayer. So that's been a huge thing for us. And there have been times in our marriage when we didn't know what to do.
Oh, yeah.
Our daughter went through some health issues, and we were at our wits' end, and all we could do was stand on God's promises in the Bible and pray and expect His healing for her. So, I would say spiritually that's been a big thing and journey for us. As a couple, we always tried to find a church to be involved in
Mm-hmm.
as a married couple because of the community that we can build in there. Like Cindy said earlier, find an older couple. I almost said elderly, but that's not the word I want to use. But an older couple that can build into you and mentor you.
Yeah, that's good.
And if you're going to take marriage advice, everybody's going to give marriage advice. Everybody's got
Everyone.
advice. And single people, married people, the whole thing. We talked about this even before we came, but we believe that if you're going to get good marital advice, you need it from somebody that's been in the game for 15 to 20 years,
Right.
because they've been through this stuff.
That's for me, not for you.
Okay, they've been through this stuff. 5, 7, 8. You've been through stuff, but you haven't been through
Stuff.
Yeah. And you get to the 15, the 20, 25 mark, and they've been through physical things. They've been through. I just go to that. I remember I'm going to divulge information. We both had our gallbladders out, and so one of the things that I remember
How
was
romantic.
how not together.
Together.
Yeah. Okay, continue. Continue.
So it just health issues, and so when you think about your spouse, you're saying goodbye to them, going into the operating room, and you're thinking, oh, what happens if they don't come back? And I had mine out during COVID, and she had to wait in the car, and it was a very dark and lonely time, waiting for me to come out, or she could come get me. So, you go through things like that. And we talk about when I marry couples, I talk about, you have to keep Christ centered in your marriage. And we both have to grow closer to Christ individually.
Individual as well. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because as we do
That's
that,
right.
then we draw closer together ourselves.
That's a good reminder.
Yeah.
You wrote something down?
Yeah, this really wasn't on the spiritual aspect
Sure.
of it, but he kind of touched on, when things happen and you maybe are getting the advice from other married people, it's really important to not spin your stuff to your friends
Oh.
and diss on your husband while you
Oh, yeah.
go out for coffee,
Yeah.
because that's what you leave your friend with, and that's what they think about your guy, right?
Yeah.
And you might go home and fix it all back up and, figure out that I was right 50% of the problem.
Yeah.
But my friend still has that taint in her mind about that. So I think it's really important that if you do, need to talk it out with someone, find someone that you trust that isn't going to spin or have that. Or it's even like when we were first married, I'm going to go back to my parents and talk
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? They probably don't need to know that.
Yeah.
So it's important. I think that getting advice is good, but just dialing up your friend and trying to figure it out that way isn't the right way to make it happen.
Yeah. Be wise with who you seek counsel from,
Yeah.
in other words.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, and we are blessed, and so are your kids, with parents who have had long marriages, and so we had that benefit of being able to reach out to that. But not everyone has that benefit, so that's why it's so important to be plugged into a church. Because if you're a first generation marriage that hasn't had divorce or whatever, then you have that community, like you said, that's huge to link arms with. I know we have a life group, and there's a lot of us that are married and we're similarly aged, and so we're able to link arms together and pray for each other when times get difficult and celebrate wins together, right? But not only that, but also, grieve together, because it's both. You want both of that, which is something else you go through as in a marriage as well. You have high highs, but you also have low lows, and you have to make sure you're with someone that you're going to want to be with in both those situations. I personally, myself, when we've had whatever we've gone through, I wouldn't want to go through it with anyone else other than Tori, my wife. Like, I know that for a fact. And I know y'all have had way more because, again, you've been married for a longer time. But you told me to mention something to make sure I say it, but you said something along the lines of when you get married, marriage is your life.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
It is. I mean, you just go through life together. And high highs and low lows. We just went through a low time like 2 years ago. My dad had passed away 27 years ago. So, and that was a tough time because that was we were raising kids, and in the middle of all that, I was trying to get a small business off the ground, and it just was a rough time. So 2 years ago, fast forward to that, my mom finally passed away at Christmas time, and then not even
90 days probably.
Yeah, and it was 30 days, and we found out your dad's diagnosis. He had cancer. So not even 90 days after my mom passed away, her dad passed away, and so it just left us with her mom. And so that was a rough go.
Oh, yeah.
My mom had dementia, and I'd always been preparing that, for that day, thinking, I've already said goodbye and everything, but I never imagined that her death would have hit me as hard as it did. And then I turned around, and I'm still grieving, and we find out about her dad, and I'm like, I have to be strong here for my wife and her family. And so it drug things out for us, but we made it through it, One of the things I told her in this was I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to my dad. And she had opportunity with her dad. And so in our marriage, this is one of those things where you can't be selfish about it. And I told her, I said, honey, I don't care. You take whatever time you want to and need to go spend time with your dad, talk about the things you want to talk about, and make sure you get those conversations in. And she did. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's those things that you have to work through in marriage, you know, and you can't put parameters on your spouse in that and selfishly say, no, you're not going up there or doing that. And you have to allow them to be a person too, you know? So yeah, that was a tough time for us. But we got through it.
I texted Bill today and I said, hey, are we still good for 4 o'clock or we have to wait till 4:30? You tell me. And he said, I'm going to be there soon. It's up to Bags. And I was like, Bags? He said, I meant Cindy. I was like, so is that the pet name or like?
You've heard like the old bag, right?
Yes,
You're familiar with that. Okay.
yes. Is that why you said that?
No.
Okay.
Here's the story.
Oh, no.
You know, I'm a guy, all right, and I like hobbies and things like that. I also like cool computer bags. Okay, she's got purses. I'm always looking for the perfect bag, just like women are looking for the perfect purse.
Yep.
Okay, and so I've got more than a few
Purses or
bags.
Okay, all right.
Bags at home, and we were having a rummage sale, and you know this is how our marriage goes. And she says, "Honey, I think you need to put some of those bags on the rummage sale and sell them." And I looked at her and I said, "Oh, honey, I can't do that." She says, "Why?" I said, "Because if I put all those bags on the table, then I got to put you out there too."
Oh, my gosh.
So it became an endearing name for her, you know. And it's funny to listen to people react when I refer to her as bags.
Yeah, you should have seen my face when I read that.
Yeah.
I was so confused.
Yeah. And so
Is that what she is in your phone?
no,
Okay.
That's a good one. But that's why we fly Southwest.
because bags fly through.
Oh, my gosh.
So
That's perfect.
so I had to sing at a wedding at the golf course up on the north end of town, and we're walking away and you know to get in our car after everything's done, and we're coming up and there's a sign that's posted, and she says, "Hey, take my picture." And she goes up and sits underneath the sign that says "Drop bags here," for the golfers to drop their golf bags.
That's
there.
perfect.
So it was really funny.
We get a lot of mileage out of it.
Yeah, we do.
I think that adds to longevity too. Is laughing together.
It does. Yeah, it does.
My parents too. I can't remember how long they've been married, but they've had a lot of. Gosh, they laugh at each other all the time.
I want to ask you guys one question. One question that comes to my mind is, out of the almost 40 years that you guys been together, what is your favorite thing about each other?
Okay, that was one of my questions. What the heck?
Why didn't you
Stealing
get
my thunder.
You should have asked it.
Well, I was about to, and then you whatever. But yeah, I was gonna ask. I even show you proof. But so we can start with whoever. Maybe start with Bill and give Cindy some more time. But what would you say is your favorite thing about your wife, or what you admire most about your wife?
Her beauty.
Oh.
She hasn't aged a bit in my eyes since.
Okay, so on that
I
note,
second that actually. I've seen
yes,
pictures
and
of you
I'm
back
third.
in the
I
day.
third that.
You
Because
you
he
aged.
we were getting ready for the centennial, and he pulled up older footage of announcements, and I'm like, or like of whoever, and everyone looks so different except for you. You look exactly the same.
Oh my goodness.
Like we pulled up announcements, and I was like, it looks like she recorded that yesterday. Yeah. You look exactly the same. You don't age. Continue.
Sweet.
So yeah, I mean, it's and her personality, and I think it goes back to the friendship thing. She's my best friend, and we do things together, and she makes me happy, and I like just being with her, and we've learned to navigate us. I think about and not often, but I mean once in a while the thought will come through my mind of I just pray nothing happens to her because life would be miserable.
Yeah.
And I don't even think I would ever try and find another person
Right.
to fill that spot because they couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't love me the way she loves me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd say that's my favorite thing about you.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about Bill, or what do you admire most about Bill?
I admire Bill's generosity. At first, when I noticed how generous he was, it kind of upset me. I'm like, hey, babe, you're giving away things we don't have,
Mm-hmm.
And
including time.
A lot of
Oh,
time.
time's a
I
big
would, I
one.
would
Lot
give
of
my
time.
time
Time's a big
away to
one.
other
Yeah.
people and neglect the things at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But when Bill says to you, hey, you call me anytime, day or night, I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
He means it.
Yeah, he means it.
He means it.
Mm-hmm.
And, the projects that we help to do here at church with, financially, he's always going in and doing that or helping people. And,
Mm-hmm.
the older I get, the more I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I can see that virtue as
Mhm.
being virtuous.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's awesome.
Yeah.
And I know he loves me. He tells me that all the time.
I'm telling you, he talks
All
about
the
you all the
time.
time, and I'm just not just saying that. He's always thinking of you, like seriously. And even like this past Christmas, what he got you for Christmas? Can you say what that was? It was a pretty sweet gift, or at least you said that was your Christmas gift.
Oh, my car starter?
Yes.
Yeah.
See, it's just so thoughtful. Like,
Yeah.
gosh, and that's just who he is. You know?
We didn't touch on love languages because that's
Sure.
really important
Yeah,
to
that
know
is important.
too. But gifts is his love language. He
Oh,
loves
gift giving,
he loves to give them and he loves to get them.
both. What is yours?
Mine is acts of service.
So
Most
yes.
women.
So Tori's is acts of service. So when I wash dishes or fold towels,
Yeah.
like that means a lot to her.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is words of affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
if
Bill's second.
someone, I've said it before from the platform, if someone, as it could be as simple as worship was great today, that fuels me for like 3 weeks.
Mhm.
Or like, so thankful you're here, that'll fuel me for forever.
Yeah.
But yes, love languages are important, which goes back to knowing your spouse and how they operate.
Absolutely have to know
You have to know your
what
spouse.
grips them. Yeah,
Otherwise, you can't stay married to someone for 39 years you don't know.
exactly.
Yeah, and
I even think too that y'all dating for a few years before helped as well. But
Yeah.
go ahead. I want you to finish that thought.
so I was going to say, you get these couples that say, "Oh, I'm going to change them.
Ooh.
I'm going to change my spouse when we get married. I'm going to." No, you're not. They're going to have to change themselves.
Mhm.
That's the thing.
Mhm.
I'm going to hit it.
Do it.
I learned over marriage that my wife, when she needs acts of service, when she asks me to do something, she wants it done like right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like painting the house.
Yeah, and I
Or even
didn't.
taking out the trash or
Yeah,
whatever.
and I didn't understand it.
Yep.
So as a guy, she'd say, "Bill, will you take out the trash?" Yep, I'll get it. Boom, it goes on my list. I'll get it. I'm gonna finish what I'm doing, or
Mhm.
whatever. I get up to go do it, and she's walking out the door with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I
That
said,
made him so mad.
"Oh, it did," because I'm like, "You asked me to do it. Why are you taking it out?"
Mm-hmm.
It's just because I asked you to do it 5 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that became a discussion in the house, and what we determined, and this is where it came down to, I finally said, "I'm trying to change. Will you let me?"
Mm.
And she had to realize that, okay, yeah, I need to give him time to get to the trash and get it out. And so I would say that to couples.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if you expect them to change, you got to give them space
Let
to
them
change.
do it, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Well, and that comes into like fighting fair. Like you can't always bring up, I asked you, to
Yeah.
change this about yourself, and you said you would, but you haven't. But you have to stop and think, is there any degree of change that you've seen at all? Because any degree towards the better is on the right
Yeah.
path.
Even if it's a little bit.
And habits are habits, and you just have to roll with it.
yeah. Yeah. And that's a great point too that you brought. You can't dig up past hurts and past stuff for the current discussion or
It's so unfair to
No, you
that
can't.
spouse.
And you just can't, because it like you said, it's unfair. It just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't.
You end up getting nowhere.
Yeah, you wrote something down.
I remember when we were first married, the Stormy O'Mardian was a very popular person, and she'd written a book called The Power of a Praying Wife.
And there's a guy version too, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a grandparent and all those
Everything,
others.
yeah.
But I got the book seriously thinking, I'm going to pray, God's going to change it. I'm sure of it. And I didn't even get 3 pages into the book, and I'm like, oh, no, it's going to change me before it changes him. and how I see my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can't see him as a dumbbell all the
Yeah.
time, I have to be his cheerleader and see
Yes.
him, see his good qualities
Mm-hmm.
and help him reach those,
Mhm.
reach his best potential.
Also biblical for both to honor each other, to honor the wife and honor the husband. A famous scripture people love to quote is the wives, well, that husbands love to quote. You know which one it is? Wives, you got to submit to your.
Yeah.
But what does the rest of the passage say? If you continue, the guy has to also honor the wife. You know,
As
it's-
Christ loves the
Christ
church.
Yes, that's very important. We tend to cut that off,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying one's more important than the other. They're both as important.
Yeah.
And so, yes, thank y'all for giving us time. Seriously, and I really do appreciate y'all. And I just can't believe I've known y'all this long.
Yeah. See, the years go fast, don't they?
They do, don't they? Yeah. And so I hope people listening or watching that they're encouraged by this and inspired by your long and successful marriage. Many years to come, right?
Right.
Y'all have
Yes.
2 grandkids so
Yes.
far. By the way, we didn't touch on that,
Yep.
but they're very young. But man, y'all have y'all are going to get to see those grandbabies and maybe more in the near future grow up. And that's a whole other
It's a
whole
whole
other
new,
thing.
that's a whole new podcast.
We'll do a grandparent podcast.
That would be fun.
And that'd be so great. But thank you guys so much for watching, listening. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Thanks for watching or listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Or if you listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, add this show to your library. And if you could drop us a rating or review, that would be awesome. Love y'all. Shalom.